My name's Will Rogan, and we are currently in my home, which is also my studio. I kind of always knew that I wanted to be an artist, even when I was in high school, I guess, because it was pretty much the only thing I was good at. It was either that or skateboarding, and I wasn't good enough at skateboarding. The series Public Sculpture I titled in response to a lot of this kind of rhetoric in like the fine art world that like public sculpture is jewelry for buildings, or that it lacks meaning and personality. And I kind of subscribe to that. And so I thought of this work as sculpture made by the public for the public, inadvertently, without the intention of making it, but that by photographing it and putting it within that context, that it framed these things as sculptures made by the public. The photo series was all photographs of things that had gone, I guess, wrong in some way in the urban environment, like a photograph of a car door that got opened into a bicycle that pinned it up against a bus, or like a bent post with a coffee cup on it. These moments where things that are meant to serve a specific purpose get either twisted or bent out of shape into serving a different purpose, and one that's more personal, I guess, one that's more directed by the individual as opposed to the mass of people. A big part of that work grew out of me having a kid and working a full-time job. I was commuting to and from work at the San Francisco Art Institute to work in the library on my bicycle. And then when I was done with work, I was heading right back home to like hang out with my daughters. That was the space that I was in, and that was my everyday. Like riding past a car that has a snail on it and noticing the snail and then thinking, wait a minute, that's meaningful. There's something really weird about those two things together. The first photograph was a photograph of scaffolding that had blown down in a windstorm. And it was a picture that I think anyone who had a camera in their pocket would have taken. I wasn't a photographer. I'd carry this camera around, but I was slightly indifferent to the way that I made the photographs. I only ever took one picture of things because it was just about making a record of this thing. It wasn't about framing, it wasn't about composition, it wasn't about a second thought, it was about that thing. It wasn't about the photograph, it was about that thing and a way of putting that thing in a different context. Photography was just kind of the easiest way. The series, Picture the Earth Spinning in Space, the title of that series came from a book that I had around. They're called My Little Golden Book About Whatever. This one was My Little Golden Book About God. It's those kids' books that have the little gold spine with the dogs on it and stuff. They're usually like Pinocchio story or something, like some kind of like puppies that, get in a fight and then make up. But this one is really weird and existential. And there's one page in it that says, picture our Earth spinning in space. And it has this picture of just blackness with the Earth, which I thought, that is a crazy thing for a kid to have to think about. That's really a big thought, And that was what sort of directed this series of photographs. I do think that there is meaning in objects. And we derive meaning from objects, the everyday objects around us especially. And that we are on this planet that's spinning around the sun, and it's totally insane. And when you can connect these really larger thoughts through these really small personal thoughts, there's something that's really sweet about that to me. I think that that's a really interesting way of relating to the world. And I think that can only bring like good things into your life. It can make you more sensitive to what's around you. It can make you more sensitive to how we all commonly experience that, these large, meaningful moments through these small personal things.